Todd sure puts the cape in Cape Crusader. Here's a look at the brand new McFarlane Toys Batman by Todd McFarlane 1/8 scale statue. After failing miserably to defeat the Reaper, Batman must consider fighting fire with fire, which unfortunately puts him at deadly odds with Gotham City Police Department. Forced to then work with Joe Chill as a result, the man responsible for killing his parents, Batman must do what he can to put an end to the Reaper's tyranny, even if it goes against his best interests. While Batman's making the most of all this extra material, let's grab the tape measure and see how tall the 1/8 scale statue of Batman stands. While I'm doing this as well, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample we could have a look at. This is one of, I think, 3 variations of this particular statue. As already released, there was a black and white version, there's the one that we're looking at in this review, and there's also a blue cowl blue cape version, which is also an exclusive that we will be looking at in an upcoming review. Back, though, to Batman, the statue of him actually stands almost 11 inches in height, or it's going to stand at about 27 centimeters tall. The statue is based on issue 423. If you're not as familiar with issue 423, you get yourself a small reminder presented here in a trading card that depicts the Dark Knight drawn by Todd himself protecting a girl within his cape. I love the fact that they actually included the source material so you have a referencing point when you have this displayed with the statue. One thing, though, I do wish that they could have included was a little standee for this, because if not for that, there's no real other place to display it along with the statue, other than if just you're resting against Batman's cape. On the back, though, of the card, while normally you get a read-up of Batman himself, what you actually get instead is still the real name of Bruce Wayne, but actually a little summarized story of what runs through issue 420. Now, again, if you are interested, get this one for yourself. The original comic I have as part of my collection, although it's not in great condition. If you wanted to get a good or near mint copy of 423, expect to pay about $170 to $200, as at least that's the asking price on eBay right now. Again, I love the card that they included. I just wish that the card could have had itself a standee, just so it had a purpose when you have it displayed on the shelf. Going back, though, to the card, I did already mention that there's going to be a couple of variations of this specific statue. I do hope at some point, though, that we get one that's closer to the comic where it has really no depiction of face on the front of Batman. Instead, just sort of a shadowy, just silhouetted image with just glowing white eyes. I'd love to see them actually use this mold and give us something that's just completely more simplified on color scheme. Moving that to the side, the statue also comes included with a display stand. Now, the display stand isn't crucial when it comes to standing it with the statue. If you wanted to, though, the statue base just attaches onto the bottom. I'm just going to remove it right now. If you wanted to have Batman just displayed on his own, there's enough accommodated space on his footprint that the statue isn't going to wobble around at all. So if you wanted to have it without, if for example, you just don't think you like the look of the circular stand on the bottom of the statue, you just leave it off altogether if you wanted to. This base is actually one that we've seen before. Also, specifically, I think the Superman statue that we looked at not too long ago had one similar to this, although I think maybe the post was a little bit further back from what I remember. It still has the DC printed logo down below here, and it attaches onto the bottom of Batman's cape by this provided hole here. If you look to the bottom of the statue, you'll see a very similar metal post to what we got with the Man of Steel, and that just plugs onto the bottom of it. I will say, though, plugging onto the bottom of the base, it doesn't seem to plug on all the way. Even just a little bit of twisting back and forth, I find even just putting them on the statue, it wobbles just a little bit. Either, again, you can have it without the stand if you want to. I'd probably just decide to have it displayed with the stand just because, again, it comes with part of the statue. It obviously comes with the statue itself. Taking off the base, though, for right now, as it makes things a little bit easier to have a look at the statue. This, again, has a really nice depiction of the Batman. I mean, obviously, with the way that the card is designed, I mean, if we just bring back in the card here for a second, if we look at the statue and we look at the card, the Batman's kind of twisted this way. Although what you wouldn't see as much in the card, you'll see a lot more here in the statue, is a really nice sculpted Batman face. The face itself has slightly a low-tilted Batman head that has, again, the eyes there from his cowl. A really nice, well-sculpted face there, too. And he has the colors, the classic colors of the grays, the blacks, and the blues. You see his symbol on the inside there. Hopefully you guys can actually see it. It's the one thing I don't think delivered as well on the actual statue. Just because, again, like when you're looking at the original source material, you wouldn't even really see a bat symbol altogether. It's just all dark and black. So they had to kind of imagine some of the things that would have been on the bat suit. I don't think, honestly, that the symbol comes across as good as it could have. Maybe just the fact that it has to be lifted away from his body like this. It's not very, like, it's not flat to his torso. It sort of does make it look a little, I don't know if it doesn't look as good. It may have looked maybe a bit better if they actually had just printed it onto his body and didn't actually have to make this lifted from the rest of his torso. It's the only thing I feel that doesn't necessarily ruin the statue, but it's one thing I feel that is a bit of a detractor from it. You can see a little bit of a utility belt, although it's a little harder to make it out because it's way down in there. He has the big, long, flowing cape. Now, where the cape doesn't have black, at least it does deliver with a little bit of blue. You can see all the blue on the inside folds of the cape here. Now, this is all plastic, by the way. This is one of those statues that would have really been presented nicely also in resin, but resin with all these extra little things that go on with the cape. There's so much potential for any one of these things potentially breaking. I'm glad that they went with the route instead of PVC plastic. But if we just tip the statue up, you can just see like how much plastic molding went into this. Folds on top of folds, on top of wrinkles, on top of creases. It's a really interesting looking statue. It does have a really nice showpiece to it as well. If we spin it around to the back, you can see some nice detailing added in there. Now, it does almost look like they've added the cape in sectional parts. If you look at like this part of the cape, for example, there's a little seam line right here that it looks like the cape was a separate piece that they had to add separately. In fact, actually, there's a few little areas here on the cape where it looks like there's separate pieces that had to be added afterwards. I think there's also a crease somewhere right around here as well. Oh, there's also a mold line, which doesn't really bother me all that much, but yeah, there are a few little areas where you can kind of see that there had to be extra pieces added afterwards. But overall, though, it's just a really interesting, fun-looking cape. The thing I really also like about this cape is that it's drawn by Todd McFarlane. Well, at least the original source material is drawn by Todd McFarlane. The fact that they were able to, again, take this and translate it to a 3D form, not always an easy feat, because of course what you're only really looking at when it comes to the card is like this section of Batman. You're not seeing the sides, you're not seeing the top, you're certainly not seeing what it would look like with lights. So they had to again fill in some of the blanks. I think what we ended up getting with filled in blanks is a really nice rendered looking Batman. The face is fantastic. The only thing again I would say about the statue is while it looks fantastic from all the real sides, I mean, I think I'll just end up displaying him kind of like the way it's depicted in the comic, just slightly twisted to the side. I like everything about the statue except for the bat symbol. There's just something that seems off on the symbol itself. I think if the symbol had maybe been closer to his body, normally I do like things that are sculpted over top so it doesn't seem like they just, printed the image over top of whatever it was that they were molding. But I feel like in a case like this, maybe the symbol didn't need to be lifted the way that it was. Because again, like if you look at it, there's a few little parts to the bat, for example, that lift out further than others. I think this should have been a lot flatter than what it actually delivers. But the head sculpt is fantastic. I like the look of the cape. And again, there are a couple of variations. We will be looking at a blue cape, blue cowl version of this guy, which I think is also a McFarlane Toys digital exclusive. There was also, if you were lucky enough to get yourself the black and white release of him, basically just has the same depiction of Batman in all the black colors and gray colors. But again, like to go back, if they wanted to get the most mileage out of this mold, it's just always something I always usually say about these companies. I would love to see them release it, not necessarily with the girl inside his cape, but release, in fact, just a black faced Batman, just with only just his eyes visible, and filling in all the extra blanks with all the extra additional blue. I think I would love to see that get a future release. I don't know if that's going to necessarily be the case, considering that they have already released this statue with the blue one included, one that we will be looking at in an upcoming review. They've already done this statue, I think, 3 times. The chance of them releasing a 4th time is probably slim, but if they do, I would say certainly look to the source material, as you certainly did the time when you were actually making the statue in the first place. Look to the source material and deliver us maybe a Batman that looks as shadowy as this. That would be a statue I'd love to get in part of my collection. For those interested to get their hands on the 1/8 scale statue of Batman, the prices that he's going for online, and he's currently pre-ordered on many sites, he goes for around $76 to $79, so he's a little under $80. For under $80, I think it's very enticing for new-time collectors that don't want to break the bank to get those high-end statues and pay several $100s for, as this guy could have also been released in resin. The problems with releasing him in resin, as already mentioned, is first of all, the price would be a lot higher. Instead of expecting to pay $80 for him, expect closer to spend $300 to $400 for him. And I think with also this particular design of cape, while the idea is great and tantalizing to have him released in resin, I don't think it's very practical. A cape like this would be very prone to breaking, as there's all these individual folds to the cape that could easily break if this guy was released in resin. The smarter route instead, and much more feasible route to make it accessible to all collectors, Todd's team decided instead instead to release it in plastic PVC, and I think it works a lot better for that. Even though it does look a little more like PVC plastic, there's definitely a difference between resin and PVC. I appreciate the fact that going with PVC, again, made it much more accessible to everybody, and also meant that if this one was to fall onto the ground, there'd be less things breaking on this. If it was resin, everything would be on the cape shattered. What do you guys think of the statue? Let me know down below in the comment section. Did you guys also get the chance to pick up the black and white release of this? Now, again, there's a black and white version that I think got released before this one even saw light of day. There's also this one that we looked at in this review. And in an upcoming review, we're also going to be looking at the McFarlane Toys digital release of this statue that swaps out the black instead for blue. So if you guys want to see that, make sure you're coming back to this channel. Big thank you once again to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the brand new 1/8 scale McFarlane Batman statue based on issue 423. If you guys did enjoy this video, I want to hit a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and you'd like to stick around for more, not only are we going to be looking at the blue version of this statue, but we are also going to be looking at some more McFarlane toy releases. So if this is the channel, hopefully you're coming back to check out more new McFarlane stuff. Make sure you're coming back here on a regular basis. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.